Shukla, the second Indian to make it to the International Space Station. 7 experiments carried out by him while he was at the International Space Station. So one's really waiting for all the stories he's to share once he's back. But what is the critical phase we're looking out for, Toya?
Well, we're going to tell our audiences more about it, and we're also going to tell you a little bit about what there is to look forward to in the afternoon today, when it actually takes place. But apart from that, we've also got a very, very musical episode for you. We have one of classical music's greats, Kaushiki, joining us here on the show, but she actually is going to first bring in some classical music to your mornings, but also walk you through her new album. And her new album is with none other than Shantanu, someone who is renowned for composing everything from Parineta to Three Idiots. So 2 big names joining us later on the show. Let's very quickly first look at all the headlines. Okay, first up, India's road to human space flight. How Earth's gravity pulls astronauts home. Re-entry, it's the hardest part of space travel. It's the crucial role of heat shields. This is really the time when they excel in space missions. And we take you to the science behind re-entry.
And the other health alert that's trending across the country, India's sugar and oil warning that's going to be spoken of in detail. Do remember, your gulab jamuns have now joined the health alert list. There are reasons more than one to be worried about these health patterns. Jalebis, samosas are getting cigarette-like warnings in the country, especially given the numbers and how India could be placed right after the United States in years from now as far as the obesity chart is concerned. We'll talk about that, take it up with our expert this morning on The Breakfast Club.
And after that, a pitch-perfect pairing, Kaushiki and Shantanu. As we promised you earlier, they're hitting a new note with Pankh. It's a classical icon, Kaushiki, on her formative moments. And it's melodic mornings here with The Breakfast Club. We're excited to walk you through this magical collaboration.
All right, Shubhanshu Shukla's story first up. As the Crew Dragon capsule re-entered Earth's atmosphere, every second tested the limits of speed, of gravity and technology. But how does the entire re-entry process really work? Let's quickly break it down. To begin with, the capsule was hurtling through space at nearly 27,000 km per hour. That's about 7.5 kilometers every single second. To return safely, the Dragon performed a de-orbit burn, firing its engines to slow down and change direction from orbit to a steep descent back to Earth.
But here's the very, very important part, precise angle control. Enter too shallow and the capsule could have skipped off the atmosphere like a stone on water. Enter too steep and friction would have burnt it up. Shukla's mission nailed that very balance.
And next comes the tug-of-war between gravity and air resistance at around 120 kilometers above Earth. Gravity begins pulling the capsule down hard while the thin upper atmosphere starts resisting its motion. This air resistance or further drag slows the capsule dramatically, but also heats it up as particles slam against it at hypersonic speeds. A perfect balance of drag and gravity keeps the descent controlled, ensuring that the capsule doesn't spiral out of control or burn prematurely.
Now, as the capsule plunges deeper, the heat shield faces temperatures of about 1,900 degrees centigrade. It's hotter than even molten lava. This thermal protection system was key to keeping Shukla and his crew safe. At the same time, the astronauts felt 3 to 4 G of deceleration, 3 to 4 times their own body weight pressing down on them. Now imagine all of those factors, and then finally at around 5.5 kilometers altitude, you have small drogue parachutes that are deployed to stabilize the capsule, followed by giant main parachutes that then slow it down further, bringing it down to a safe splashdown speed of roughly 50 meters per second.
For India's Gaganyaan mission, which is being spoken of, remember, through and through Shubhanshu Shukla's mission, these re-entry maneuvers in specific are also a blueprint. Velocity control ensures the capsule doesn't overshoot or burn up. Thermal protection keeps astronauts safe from extreme heat. G-force tolerance data helps design systems to support crew health and telemetry plus autonomous descent management means the craft can adjust its path in real time, which is once again essential for all kind of crewed missions.
After nearly 3 weeks aboard the ISS, the International Space System, the Space System and Station, the Axiom 4 crew has undocked already. All of that has taken place. It took place yesterday, in fact. Now they're preparing for a fiery re-entry through Earth's atmosphere, and critical experiments have already taken place. Remember, they are overcoming delays, and this journey has, in the last few days, especially with multiple points at which we thought they were going to take up into space and it didn't happen, this journey has had it all.
Do remember, they were not supposed to be at the International Space Station for 18 days, so there was a little bit of a longer stay, if we can put it that way. But here's how Shukla's return is unfolding and what you can expect in the next few hours. Take a look.
3, 2, 1, ignition, and lift off.
For 3 nations, a new chapter in space takes flight.
As the hatch of the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft Grace was sealed and the indicator aligned, the countdown to Shubhanshu Shukla's historic return home began. After a 10-minute delay, Axiom 4 undocked from the International Space Station, and within 22 hours, Shukla, along with his 3-member crew, is expected to splash down in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California. After nearly 3 weeks in space, India's pride, Shubhanshu Shukla, is finally returning home. Following undocking from the ISS, the Dragon spacecraft will perform a series of departure burns to maneuver and re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. The final steps include detaching the capsule's trunk and positioning the heat shield for re-entry, where the spacecraft will face temperatures of nearly 1600 degrees Celsius. The crew is expected to splash down around 3 p.m. on July 15th. Afterward, the Axiom 4 crew will undergo 7 days of rehabilitation as they adjust to life on Earth under the influence of gravity. After 6 delays, the Axiom 4 mission successfully launched into space on June 25th with 4 crew members aboard. This historic mission includes 60 scientific experiments from 31 countries, making it one of the most ambitious private space flights to date. The Axiom 4 crew also features a diverse and accomplished international team. Originally scheduled for May 29th, the mission faced multiple postponements due to technical issues. Now, after 18 eventful days aboard the International Space Station, the crew is preparing for their journey home. After successfully completing all 7 microgravity experiments, India is welcoming Shubhanshu Shukla home with open arms. His experiments focused on muscle regeneration, diabetes, plant biology, Voyager tardigrades, microalgae growth, and human-computer interaction in microgravity. During his maiden flight to the ISS, Shukla made history as the first Indian astronaut to travel to space in over 40 years, following Rakesh Sharma's iconic mission aboard a Soviet Soyuz spacecraft in 1984. With more than 16 years of experience as a fighter pilot, Shukla has accumulated over 2,000 hours of flying time. Axiom 4 marks a new era in space exploration, showcasing the ability of private companies to successfully coordinate complex international crewed missions in collaboration with NASA, ensuring both safety and valuable scientific returns. As Axiom 4 prepares for its fiery descent, the world holds its breath, praying for the crew's safety. After bidding farewell to their mission, the astronauts will finally reunite with their families, bringing an end to their historic journey.
All right, let's take you now from outer space to something happening right here in the nation. There's a new health alert that came out across India's government institutions. This time it's not about smoking or drinking. Typically, those are the things we see those alerts about, but this time it's about what's on our plate. The Health Ministry has directed all central government offices, including AIIMS Nagpur, to install oil and sugar boards.
These brightly coloured posters are meant to shock employees or everyone walking into these canteen areas into noticing just how much hidden sugar or oil is packed into your everyday snacks, your favourite snacks like jalebis, samosas, vada pav, gulab jamun, even tea and lassi for that matter.
Now, the government's internal note warned that more than 44 crore Indians could be obese by 2050. That would potentially make India the second largest hub of obesity after the United States. 1 in 5 urban Indian adults is already overweight, and the rise in childhood obesity, lifestyle diseases like diabetes and hypertension, that has made this push for such visual nudges much, much more urgent.
The directive is also being linked to a broader effort by the FSSAI to tighten food labelling and calorie disclosures across packaged foods. We've seen that effort to a large extent the last few hours. Now they're looking at rephrasing the manner in which the message will be conveyed to the consumer. The Parliamentary Subordinate Legislation Committee, chaired by Milind Deora, is now reviewing proposals for uniform regulations, even on alcohol, to ensure Indian foods aren't singled out while Western junk food continues to be sold unchecked.
Okay, so will putting gulab jamuns and jalebis in the same leagues as cigarettes actually change habits? Is that the wrong way to look at it? Our colleague Anna Narasimhan spoke to Milind Deora about this move and the thought that's gone on behind it. Take a look.
What is this with the samosa and jalebi? इसी के ऊपर क्यों गुस्सा निकाल रहे हैं? It's like trying to attack traditional Indian food.
No, firstly, let me make a statement that, firstly, I commend the Prime Minister of India for launching a very timely anti-obesity campaign across the country. Anand, as you are aware, while we are growing, developing, one of the unfortunate byproducts is that there are a growing number of people who are becoming obese, fighting obesity, and combating it is obviously imperative for the government of the day to do. That said, you're right, the committee that I chair, the Parliamentary Committee of Subordinate Legislation that I chair, at the moment, we are at present examining this very issue and the issue relating to the FSSAI, which is the Food Safety Standards Regulator in the country, and specifically with regards to how we can strengthen the Prime Minister's efforts towards an obesity India, a free India, where we can educate people, educate the average consumer, you and I, the consumer, who may not be aware of what we're buying off the shelf, about the potential dangers of that product. And
Okay, joining us this morning is nutritionist Kavita Devgan. A very good morning to you, ma'am. Thank you for taking out the time. It's an interesting conversation. The entire country is talking about it. Let's not forget the sheer emotional attachment to jalebis and samosas in this country. So this is going to be a difficult pill, a hard pill to digest. Do you see this being implemented to an extent that people are actually going to take this seriously? Because for years at length, we've seen how the Indian population has enjoyed these typical Indian classical snacks.
Good morning to everyone. Oh yes, of course, it is a shocker. These two are possibly the most favorite foods. If you take a poll today, three of us sitting here, I'm sure if you take a poll, it'll probably come up in the list of favorites here as well. But yes, I think there are pros and cons to this. It is a good step. I agree 100% because the fact is we do need a shocker now. We, like you mentioned, by 2050, we are looking at 50 crore obese Indians, which is like huge, and if we don't start taking strong steps today, we probably would have missed the bus completely. So in that way, I feel this visual nudging and this repeated reminders might help. But personally, in my opinion, it's not going to make too much of a difference. I'm hoping this is the first step and they have other, things lined up after that. So if that is the case, I can understand maybe it might help. Because like you said, the emotional attachment to these foods would make people probably, look at the posters and then still go ahead and eat them because they're so used to eating them. I feel that they need to make it a little more solid. Instead of just talking about sugar and oil, which most of us know about how bad it is for us, we still go ahead and eat them. The point is to start educating them to the next level, because my issue with these street foods, and in fact with a whole lot of these processed foods, packaged foods, bakery foods, it's not just samosa and jalebi, it's this entire spectrum of foods, is the fact that they are loaded with trans fats. I feel the dialogue needs to move more towards that, because trans fats are scary, very, very scary.
Can I ask you, Kavita, so just to agree with you firstly, we a few months ago did an episode on Diwali sweets and healthy versions of Diwali sweets. And we actually had viewers say, "Arey, Diwali sweets ko bhi ab aap, healthy banane ki koshish kar rahe ho, let one or two things be." So there was viewer feedback of that manner. But I want to ask you, to your point, some experts have argued that actually the conversation needs to shift away from what is healthy and what is unhealthy to making Indians fall in love with a healthy lifestyle overall. So to draw parallels between, for example, there are multiple European nations where cycling, for example, is a very, very normal part of the daily life. Walking is a normal part of the daily life. And so to design and redesign the way our cities live to make our lives more healthy. For example, the sound pollution we hear, so that there's less anger on the roads. Many argue that there's a need for a total overhaul. What do you think?
So I agree. Food is just one part of the whole puzzle of holistic living, and holistic living is the only way to make sure that we are able to, break through this huge problem of obesity. And more than obesity, it's the non-communicable diseases. We are already the diabetes capital of the world, and we're looking at, many, many other issues like high cancer rates, immune dysfunction, multiple other issues. So doing it piecemeal, I agree with you, will probably not work. It has to be a holistic plan where we look at every single thing. We look at exercise, we look at stress control, we look at how we are living, pollution, everything. Having said that, food is definitely a part of it. And if they're trying to work on that, it's not a bad idea. But my issue is that instead of the cancelling culture, deleting culture, actually propagating food fear-mongering, which we have already have Insta doing that a lot for us beautifully. I would much rather that we start talking about educating people more, giving them repeated reminders. Samosa and jalebi, there's nothing wrong with them if you have it occasionally. I also eat it. I'm sure you all do it too. But you need to educate them as to when to have it, how regularly, and where to have it from. The fact is, like I said, the trans fat is formed because of the kind of oil that is being used by the street vendors, which has industrially produced trans fat in it. Plus, because it is being repeatedly reheated.
Yeah.
So if those are the things can then be, I would much rather that is tackled. Instead of trying to tell people, stop having samosa, stop having jalebi. If we can have a whole educational thing where these street vendors can be taught how to make these foods better. You have street food culture in every country.
Yeah.
You go to Southeast, all the countries, the street food there is as healthy as what you would get in a restaurant. I feel the policy makers should focus a little bit more on that as well. So instead of trying to remove foods that we give us comfort, better to start trying to make them a little healthier and at the same time educate people that samosa jalebi is not a snack to be had every day at 4 o'clock in the evening. But if you have it once in a while in smaller portions, it might be okay for you.
So then these warning boards will be a good idea, don't you think? Because that's one step to making people more aware. So if you know that your gulab jamun, for instance, means 6 teaspoons of sugar, automatically it's going to, trigger that kind of a warning in your head, and you may just refrain from inching closer towards that gulab jamun. But
the second gulab jamun, you mean?
Oh,
right?
yeah, true. So go for the first one, but avoid the second is your suggestion. But ma'am, what I do want to understand from you is also how, as Toya also highlighted, lifestyle, overall health has played such a huge role in the kind of figures we see, the worrying pattern that is emerging out of our own country as well. What can be really done to spread awareness around that? We've already seen a lot of regulations, tight regulations. We've seen labeling as well being followed intensely. The government has imposed a certain guidelines to ensure the same. But are people really going back to the product label and really checking how many calories one packet of chips constitutes or a can of Coke constitutes? How many of us are doing that? What can be done about making people walk to that portion before they consume what they're consuming in terms of junk?
So FSSAI is doing a good job, but I feel whatever they're doing now needs to be made 10x, literally, looking at how dire the situation is in the country. So, if you remember, they did this amazing campaign of Thoda Kam some time back, which was Thoda Kam salt, Thoda Kam oil, Thoda Kam sugar, which was very beautifully worded and it resonated with everyone. So when you're not telling people don't eat sugar, eat Thoda Kam, that works, right? So that is the education part of it. The second part of it is making labeling, of course, much more effective is the need of the hour. You need to make it front of the pack. Everything needs to be front of the pack. So instead of just trying to put the onus on the consumer that, this is the information, I've given it to you, don't eat it. It should be more on the packs. Very clearly, it should be mentioned. Like, for example, the way Singapore is doing. Color-coded. The red ones, the red foods, which have a certain amount of sugar, are not even allowed to advertise. So I just feel we need to move in that direction.
But you'll definitely have sugar-free in front of the packet. So you'll definitely have sugar-free in bold, or 0% sugar or 0% oil will definitely be in front of the product.
We all know those are being manipulated. How sugar-free is perceived and what it actually means, those are different things, which is what I'm trying to say. This needs to be stricter. The labeling needs to be much, much stricter. And the education has to start in the schools. I mean, everyone, not just me, all experts have been talking about that. City, like you mentioned, Chakraborty.
Kavita, we'll give you...
2050 is closed. The fact... Yeah,
no, okay, your connection was cutting off. So we were going to say we'll give you a second or two for the connection to get fixed. But I just want to say it's so funny to be having this conversation while it's raining outside. Because in just the last 24 hours, the amount of people I've heard turning to each other and saying, samosa kha lete hai. We're as a culture, as a country, we're a very, very weather dependent, poetic, romantic nation. The moment it starts raining, there's that sort of beat in one's heart that one should either eat kachori, either eat samosa, something like that, pakoda. Obviously, that's the eternal monsoon food. Kavita, can I ask you, you were talking right now about initiatives and we were talking about color coding. I also want to ask you, so one thing that's proven to work in both the UK and in countries in South America has been sugar tax. So charging higher prices for foods that have more sugar in them. I just want to ask you, because you worked extensively with Indian clientele over the last few years, are we a positive reinforcement nation or a negative reinforcement nation? Which of the two works, or do both work?
I think positive works. They tried the fat tax some time back in the country. I don't think it worked. So education, I feel, is the only way forward. And tightening the legislations. Really tightening them, not giving any loophole to anybody to be able to manipulate the labels is something that the government and the policymakers need to do. And the educators, which I feel are very few, though that team needs to be strengthened and the information needs to be spread out. So instead of saying don't eat samosa, jalebi, the message out, or patura or gulab jamun for that matter, or vada pav. I don't know how the Mumbai guys will react to the vada pav addition to the list. But the fact is, telling them that this is how you can eat it right, I feel will work. Or the regularity of it. Instead of eating samosa like I keep saying, instead of eating samosa as a snack, you have to think that you're eating it as once in a while treat, an occasional treat rather than an everyday snack. That is the message, the key message that people need to understand. If you have it maybe once a month or twice a month, you still get the satisfaction, but you're not going to mess it up completely, your health.
Kavita, you won't be surprised when you hear people say, but hum to itne saalon se khate aa rahe hain, or our ancestors have also been having samosa, jalebis for the longest time. Look, they lived till 90 years, 95 years. So they start citing these examples instantly. But do you think the problem here is how there's increasing urbanization and people tend to forget that you're on your desks working 9 to 5 or maybe more, and there's barely any physical activity. So an awareness around lifestyle change also plays an equally important role then?
100%. So those people would have it, one, they would never eat samosa as a snack, our ancestors. It was always a breakfast. So jalebi kachori was a breakfast, one meal that they had, and they slogged for 8 hours after that physically. Everyone needs to understand that. The samosa earlier, 20, 30 years back, was never a snack. Jalebi was never a snack. As a dessert, it was probably one jalebi after a meal, So that's one big change that has happened. As our lifestyle changes, as our stress level change, as our environment change in which we live, the food needs to change. So this statement of saying that our ancestors used to eat and nothing used to happen to them is completely void in today's circumstance. So if you're having that samosa and if you're going out and exercising for 2 hours, you're also most welcome to live the life that they lived. So that distinction needs to be made.
So I want to quickly ask about alternatives. You can't let her go without
asking about alternatives. So this is an interesting and important question. Kavita, if we could just sneak in a last question with
quickly,
you. You were talking a little bit earlier about, for example, sugar-free that is used by so many Indians, but sugar-free has its own drawbacks. That's my entire point. So I do want to understand from you, not just sugar-free, there are a few different sugar alternatives on the market and each of them have their own separate drawbacks. Your own thoughts on that. What do you tell clients who are trying to make that shift? Do you say first few months it's all right to shift to something like sugar-free?
No, I would much rather that I'm very clear on this, that instead of trying to move to an alternative or keep looking for alternatives always, it's better to eat something that you like. For example, jalebi cannot be made with anything else except sugar. It's as simple as that. Yeah. So better to cut down the quantity, cut down your greed. Simple. Enjoy the food as is, but try to make it as healthy as possible. Eat at a place where you can be very sure of the ingredients. And if you can't, then try and make it at home. Everything can be made at home. Or if you can't do either, then eat very, very occasionally, very once in a while. But if you do, there are enough when you want a samosa, you want a samosa. When you want a jalebi, you want a jalebi. But for other times, you could look at healthier alternatives. There are many other snacks which are healthier. So if you're really honestly just craving something sweet and not just jalebi alone, then a dessert made with dates will work equally well. Similarly, if you're looking for something that is crunchy or spicy like a samosa, then you could probably just make some pakoras at home. When you make pakoras at home, you're able to control the oil. You're able to control how many you're eating.
Yeah, and there's no reheating of the oil, which, like you said, is the bigger problem here, especially when it comes to street side food.
Industrially produced trans fat is a killer. Hydrogenated oil, and that's what everyone uses. And second is reheating of oil, which I'm telling you, all of us are making that mistake at home too.
Yeah, you are right, and we're going to have to leave you. We're going to have to take departure, Kavita. We have run out of time, but thank you for both commenting on the structural parts of the story, because so much of this has to do with society. It is not an individual problem. There is a part of this that is individual, but a much larger part of this is structural. We're going to head into a quick break, and on the other side, we take a look at something entirely different. We take you to a musical morning with the perfect pairing of Kaushiki and Shantanu. They're hitting a new note with their new release, Pankh, and it's not a classical album. We'll explain it to you and they'll explain it to you on the other side of the break.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
KC Tyagi ji, namaste. Sanjay Jaji, namaste. Pawan Verma and Rajiv Rudy ji should be joining us any moment. Any moment now. But KC Tyagi ji, how would you want to respond to what Tejasvi Yadav is saying? जब तक official औपचारिक तौर पे नहीं आता तो ये हमारे लिए मूत्र के बराबर. It's like urine, like waste.
नहीं, उनके इस अनपार्लियामेंट्री जो रिमार्क है उस पर मैं कोई टिप्पणी नहीं करना चाहता. चुनाव आयोग को लेकर के जो विपक्षी दलों ने सवाल उठाया है, तो मैं आपकी जानकारी में लाऊं, मेरे साथ पवन वर्मा जी भी राज्यसभा में थे, रूडी जी भी राज्यसभा में थे, मैं भी राज्यसभा में था, और एक और सज्जन राज्यसभा में थे, उनका नाम था श्री M.S. गिल, जो मुख्य चुनाव आयुक्त रह चुके थे, जो सेंट्रल कैबिनेट में मिनिस्टर भी रह चुके थे। तो क्या मैं मानूं कि चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर M.S. गिल के रहते चुनाव में धांधली हुई होगी? लेकिन हमने कभी सवाल नहीं उठाया। लगातार चुनाव में पराजय होते हुए छुटपुट गड़बड़ियाँ 1952 से हो रही हैं। 1971 में जब मिसेस गांधी ने थम्पिंग मेजोरिटी जीती थी, तब भी कई लोगों ने कह दिया था कि रूस से शाही आई, हम तो वो भी नहीं मानते। बांग्लादेश की जीत थी, इंदिरा गांधी की सेकुलर सोशलिस्ट इमेज थी, उसकी वजह से वो जीतती थी, हम तो ऐसा मानते हैं। लेकिन अब इसमें जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट में लोग चले गए, 28 तारीख को फिर पुनः सुनवाई है। मैं थोड़ा सा बहुत संक्षेप में 2-3 चीजें अपने जो विरोधी पक्ष के मित्र हैं उनसे कहना चाहता हूं। 80% फार्म जमा हो चुके हैं, बल्कि एज ऑन टुडे 84%। 1 अगस्त को ड्राफ्ट मतदाता सूची जारी हो जाएगी, जिनके फार्म 25 जुलाई तक जमा होंगे। 1 अगस्त से लेकर के, मेरे मित्र सुन लें जरा, 1 अगस्त से लेकर 1 सितंबर तक ये जो नाम जोड़ने या आपत्ति दर्ज कराने का आवेदन कर सकते हैं। इतना लंबा समय मिलेगा। 30 सितंबर को मतदाता सूची जारी होगी, राजनीतिक दलों को ड्राफ्ट सूची दे दी जाएगी और चुनाव की वेबसाइट पर आ जाएगी। इसमें क्या दिक्कत है? इसके बाद कैसे इलेक्शन कमीशन बेईमानी कर सकता है? और जहां तक आर्टिकल 326 का आप जिक्र कर रहे थे कि जो भारत का निवासी नहीं है उसको वोट डालने का अधिकार नहीं है। जनता दल यूनाइटेड जो एनडीए का हिस्सा है, और नीतीश कुमार की क्रेडिबिलिटी ये रही है, संजय झा जी बता देंगे, हमारे पुराने मित्र हैं ये, कि वहां पर
Welcome back to the Breakfast Club. Today on the show, our people of interest are 2 artists who've spent their lives mastering different musical languages and who now meet as co-seekers. Kaushiki Chakraborty is one of Indian classical music's most defining and iconic voices. Not just known for her virtuosity, but also for her emotional intelligence, what she brings to every single note. And she has continued to push the form into new spaces in the last few years.
In fact, with her is Shantanu Moitra, the composer behind some of Hindi cinema's most enduring soundtracks. You've heard them from Pariniti, 3 Idiots, Lage Raho Munna Bhai, Hazaron Khwahishein Aisi, known for finding stories in melody, and Kaushiki have both created Pankh. Both of them creating this splendid piece of art, a 6-part musical work that's neither an album nor a documentary, but something in between, a set of songs shaped by stories and stories that led to a song. It's an autobiographical journey for both of them. So we thought we'd have both of them to tell us more about what this means. What do they make of how Pankh in fact is being viewed and what do their fans make of this piece of art? So thank you for joining us this morning on the Breakfast Club, both of you. Let's first begin by asking you about Pankh. How did it happen? What was the thought that went into coming up with this project?
Speak. पहले आप लखनऊ अदा.
Actually, yes. We first collaborated for a song called Lagi Lagi for Coke Studios, and that is how my journey into not so classical music world started in a very beautiful way. With Shantanu and Swanand. So after that, many times we discussed, okay, let's do a song together. Album was like an afterthought, I would say. But we've discussed about doing a song together many times. But for many years, the last 10, 12 years, nothing happened. And
because nothing happened because I'm a lazy Bengali, so it's very difficult.
I'm a Bengali, but I'm a little less lazy. But yeah, lazy.
So I think she struggled to push me to do something more than one song, and it just took us that much more time.
Yeah.
But I think there was a great comfort level in what we did, and I think the best of both worlds. Her world is from pure classical, and I don't know what my world is, but let's for the time being assume that I represent a lot of me represents Bollywood, And that's one thing that I learned doing movies in cinema, and I've worked with some of the greats, is that art, it's helpful if art has a perspective, if art has a story. Many of the movies that I've done, many of the songs that I've done, they work a lot because of a story which is involved with that song. And that's one thing I kept on telling her, that if ever we work together, our songs should have a story. It should come from the story. It should not be just create songs and then do an album. No. Let's see if there is a story in us that we want to say. And if we want to say a story, let that be a form of a song. And I think that has been the genesis of wanting to work together on Pankh.
Speaking of personal stories you wanted to explore, let's get into Pankh now. Kaushiki, if we could talk to you, there's one chapter or one song that is about your relationship with your father. And I don't know if our audiences know, your father is actually the esteemed Pandit Ajay Chakraborty. Now, he was both your guru and your father at the same time. Was there a tension there between both of those identities for you that you explored?
Wonderfully put, actually. This in this entire series, this is one of the most complex songs, I think, emotionally more than musically, because I think as a child I was just growing up, and Baba was my first superhero, and of course I was mesmerized and enamored by his music, by his persona and everything, and in all that, I think him just being my father and me just being his daughter somehow got hidden behind the guru and the shishya. And later on in life, when I grew up and I started looking at him as the entire personality that he is, I think as I was also figuring out and trying to find out the father, he was also trying to find out just the daughter beyond the disciple. And so the strictness, the perfection, the discipline, the time management, the focus, the concentration, those were the front lines of our conversations for a very, very long time. But beyond a point, I think we started depending on each other on an emotional level. And he started asking me about my opinions about a decision that he wants to make. So this entire journey of us finding out different perspectives of our relationship, as complex as it is and as multi-layered as it is, beyond a point I think words fail, and we take refuge in a song that we want to sing together, and there through the song we try to kind of interact with each other on a level that maybe only through words we couldn't have done. So that song is this chapter, which is called Mere Suro Mein, and the lyrics are very meaningful. I think we worked so hard on kind of finding the right balance in the lyrics for the right words.
I think you worked hard on the lyrics. I pretty much chilled.
All right, Kaushiki, we've heard so much about the song. We've heard so much about your relationship with your father. Let's hear it then. Could you sing us the song?
So this is, for the first time in our lives, we are singing just a song together and maybe telling a very complex story in a very simple and innocent way.
Lovely.
Wow, how beautiful, and I'm so happy we got to actually hear you sing. Can you, that was just so lovely. Let's actually now, Shantanu, we'll come to you and ask you a question. Tell us, you're someone audience may or may not recognize as the man, the creative genius behind Three Idiots, but behind a number of other soundtracks we've loved. Can you tell us how the world of composing a catchy tune has changed in all of these decades?
So, I've been hugely accused by Kaushiki that apparently I'm extremely lucky. My first music album, Shobha Mudgalji Sings. One of my first movies is Parinita and whatnot. So I don't deny the fact that I have been extremely fortunate, but I also feel that, you know, there's a beautiful thing that you've just said that, which I'm taking out from what you've just said, that every few years now and then, this world keeps on changing, you know. What we thought 2 years back is dramatically changing now. I think that this change is only what makes this world the way it is. And anybody who thought that this is for keeps, it's a huge risk. The traveler that I am, I've understood one thing is that my journey is important, my end result is not, because I could spend a lot of money to go and see a Mount Everest, and a porter told me, sir, आप क्यों टेंशन ले रहे हैं? इतना छोटा सा एक बादल अगर सामने आ गया आपको कुछ नहीं दिखेगा. So why don't you enjoy this journey rather than waiting to see the Everest? And I think that is the end of it. I enjoy this process of creation. I enjoy this process of telling stories. Formats may change, styles may change. When I did Ab Ke Sawan, it was not at all a fad to have music videos played as promotional events in news channels. It happened for the first time then with a news channel. And today, it's a norm. Similarly, so many things are a norm and it keeps on changing. But I think I want to tell you one thing, that the human being is probably the most variable factor in all this. The human being likes red today, likes green tomorrow, loves butter chicken today, suddenly wants healthy quinoa salad tomorrow. Who the hell knows what the human being wants? And no AI in the world can ever compete with this species called the human being, who does not know what he wants. Which is why our creations will always be beautiful and special, because it's full of flaws. It's full of imperfections. And no algorithm in the world can ever program a mistake. But any creation, art, music, literature, is full of mistakes if you look at from a prism of right and wrong. But it is those small mistakes which make it beautiful. And I think it's important to, I've always said that about myself, is that it's important to create, not with this idea that my creation will change the world. That's I think trying to be really foolish. I think instead, if you can create because, hey, this is awesome, it's lovely to collaborate with this incredible artist, or it's lovely to collaborate with a wonderful writer, it's lovely to collaborate with a beautiful musician, and hope like hell in 1 billion plus people's country, there will be a few more people who would probably like this. If we can keep it at that, I think life will be sorted. Anything more, I think we'll be hugely stressed, like I see around me, that you know, गाना release कर लिया कल, अभी तक इतने ही likes हुए. And I think that's it. I think let's just keep it very simple, and the joy of creating, and let's keep it to the cosmos, that they love it, they don't love it, they like it, not like it. Nobody can shake the belief that I enjoyed making Pankh, I enjoyed making Three Idiots, I enjoyed making Parinita. There will be people who love it, there will be people who won't love it, but it doesn't take the picture away from it. And I had a blast.
Wonderfully said. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about art, that A, it's all creativity, and B, it's not bound by rules. But Kaushiki, to you now, you've spent a lifetime perfecting the sur. One of your most loved performances is Rag Bheem Palasi. What does a Riyaz session sound like when no one's watching? What's it been like for you?
I think that video has like millions of comments from
Oh,
people
yeah.
from Nigeria, from everywhere.
Any word is okay. We think a lot when we talk about classical music. We choose our words very carefully. That's the first thing that I want to break, because it's just another kind of music. It takes skill set to do anything at a certain level. Anything, be it cooking, be it cleaning, be it singing, be it writing, be it anything, cycling, because he's a cyclist. So anything if you want to do good. If anything that you want to do which is at a level which is not ordinary, I think it takes a lot of hard work. First of all, I think it takes for that person to make a very conscious choice that this is what I want to do, and declutter your brain and focus your mind, and to put the time and the training, the discipline, the attention, the focus, the love that one needs to kind of make it your priority, and if I may say, make it your definition. So music is one of them, and classical music is another form of music. When we talk about classical music, especially with the younger generation, I've seen there's a lot of fear. It's very daunting. It's sometimes not our cup of tea because we don't understand. And the musicians who generally, though I would say that with my generation and beyond, it's changing for good. That when you see senior musicians, you think they talk a different language, their vocabulary is different, their energy is very different, their presence is sometimes very intimidating, and that kind of creates a certain level of disconnect with the music, and we are expected to understand it before like it, respect it before loving it. So I think it's not that way. It's not necessary. Of course you can respect it, but there's no harm in loving it more than respecting it, and accepting it or giving it a chance before you understand it, because we all listen to jazz music and rock music and all other kinds of music. Do we really understand them? Do we really understand all the jazz progressions? We don't, but we give it a try, and when we give it a try, we start liking it. We like paintings. Do we understand all the nuances of painting? We don't, but we love it, and we give it a try. We go to a gallery, we go to a jazz concert with an open heart, and we welcome the music and the art form. So like that, classical music is another form of music which needs, yes, it's kind of training, it's kind of discipline, which is rigorous, which takes certain number of hours and years for you to prepare for it. And the preparation, like for anything beautiful, the preparation is not as beautiful. The preparation is rigorous, the preparation is discipline, the preparation is when you sweat it out, the preparation is blood and sweat and tears and all that.
Thank you. It has truly felt this morning as if we're with two greats who are just sharing some of their wisdom around
Thank
creativity.
you for giving us the Pankh to fly.
Yeah,
Just put
literally.
it
I love that part. Okay, thank you. We're going to move on now from that. We're going to shift focus entirely, taking you to stories across the world.
Tom Holland is gearing up for his return as Spider-Man in Brand New Day promises it will be a top No Way Home. In an interview with Flip Your Wig, Holland revealed that the new film will ditch studio sets for real locations, with shooting set to begin in Glasgow next month. He also says the shift marks a return to old school filmmaking, something they missed during COVID-era restrictions. Fans can expect a more grounded and visually dynamic Spider-Man adventure.
Justin Bieber back in the spotlight with his 7th studio album that he released a few days ago. Swag it marks his first release since 2021's Justice. The internet has been buzzing with praise for the pop icon's comeback. His first without longtime manager Scooter Braun. According to People, Bieber is celebrating the milestone with his wife Hailey, who supported him throughout the album's creation. Fans now get a glimpse of the artist Hailey has always known and that we all love.
And well, chaos unfolded at Kanye West's Shanghai concert as the rapper showed up over 40 minutes late, sparking outrage among close to 70,000 fans. Technical glitches and a lack of production only added to the frustration in the audiences, with a viral clip showing the crowd chanting for refunds. One fan even accused Kanye of lip-syncing during the performance. The Shanghai show has now become a hot topic online for all the wrong reasons.
Singer Rihanna, who is currently pregnant, attended the premiere of the new animation Smurfs with her two children, Bright Rose and RZA Athelston Mayers. Now, the Smurfs, which was originally a Belgian comic book by artist Theo, has 3 films while at Sony Pictures. Smurfs is releasing in US cinemas on July 18th, so on Friday, and it's the first film for the franchise at Paramount Pictures. Rihanna is also returning with new music on the film.
Queen Camilla unveils a new dog-friendly garden in London. The Sensory Garden, an area where dogs can play, was the first garden at the Royal Horticulture Society, or the RHS Chelsea Flower Show, designed by author Monty Don, aiming to foster a connection between a love of pets and plants. Queen Camilla said she was thrilled to see the completion of the garden, having watched the project progress from its introduction at the Chelsea Flower Show to its relocation to Battersea Dogs and Cats after being gifted to the charity. The Queen is a self-proclaimed animal lover and has adopted rescue dogs from Battersea in the past.
Truly awesome. And we take you now to Japan's society in New York that is hosting the 18th annual film festival, Japan Cuts. Film organizers claim it is North America's largest festival of contemporary Japanese film. And you have Peter Tatara, director of film culture and community at Japan Society, in an interview with Reuters, saying it celebrates the past year of contemporary Japanese films, from major blockbusters to indie darlings to the next-gen filmmakers.
Tens of thousands of techno enthusiasts marched through Berlin under the motto "Our future is now." It was the 4th edition of the parade, Rave the Planet, which kicked off in non-stop rain but didn't seem to dampen anyone's mood to dance and have fun. Rave the Planet is considered the successor event to Love Parade, which was discontinued following a deadly mass panic in Duisburg in July 2010 when 21 young people lost their lives in a stampede.
A digital artist has transformed Lionel Messi's favorite goal into immersive AI art. This piece is titled Living Memory Messi, a goal in life, and it's set to be auctioned and is expected to fetch $1.5 million at Christie's. The artwork will be displayed at Christie's New York and is available in a single lot online auction that closes on July 22nd.
And parallelly, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese arrived in Beijing on Monday as part of his 12 to 18 July China visit at Li Qianzhen White. It is his second trip to China since taking office in 2022. Earlier in Shanghai, he praised Australians in China and emphasized cooperation on global steel overcapacity at a business roundtable.
And UK's Becca Pizzi and US runner Oleg Portsnov triumphed at the 2025 North Pole Marathon on July 13th. They had to brave -8 degrees and a tough terrain. Pizzi broke the women's record, calling it her toughest race. Portsnov won the men's with runners now. In that race were 91 runners from 22 nations, including a linked team that set a Guinness World Record.
A wildfire sparked by lightning has destroyed the iconic Grand Canyon Lodge and several historic cabins on the North Rim. Dragon Bravo fire, initially under control, surged past containment lines on Friday, which is the 11th of July, after strong winds. On Saturday, it showed extreme and volatile behavior, growing by 500 acres, according to the National Park Service. And as we speak, hot, dry and windy conditions are hampering firefighting efforts.
France's military might on full display as the European country celebrated Bastille Day. It's meant to celebrate the storming of the Bastille prison in Paris back in 1789. It's celebrated in full flow every year, marked by military parades and extravagant fireworks.
Cameroon's President Paul Biya, the world's oldest serving head of state at 92, will run for re-election in this year's presidential vote on the 12th of October. Members of the ruling Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, or the CPDM, and other supporters have been publicly calling since last year for Biya to seek another term. However, opposition leaders have questioned his long-term impact and ability to serve further.
Okay, we're going to be taking a quick break. On the other side, we return with more. Stay with us here on The Breakfast Club.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
KC Tyagi ji, namaste. Sanjay Jaji, namaste. Pawan Verma and Rajiv Rudi ji should be joining us any moment. Any moment now. But KC Tyagi ji, how do you want to respond to what Tejasvi Yadav is saying? जब तक official औपचारिक तौर पे नहीं आता तो ये हमारे लिए मूत्र के बराबर. It's like urine, like waste.
नहीं, उनके इस अनपार्लियामेंट्री जो रिमार्क है उस पर मैं कोई टिप्पणी नहीं करना चाहता। चुनाव आयोग को लेकर के जो विपक्षी दलों ने सवाल उठाया है तो मैं आपकी जानकारी में लाऊं, मेरे साथ पवन वर्मा जी भी राज्यसभा में थे, रूडी जी भी राज्यसभा में थे, मैं भी राज्यसभा में था और एक और सज्जन राज्यसभा में थे, उनका नाम था श्री MS गिल, जो मुख्य चुनाव आयुक्त रह चुके थे, जो सेंट्रल कैबिनेट में मिनिस्टर भी रह चुके थे। तो क्या मैं मानूं कि चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर MS गिल के रहते चुनाव में धांधली हुई होगी? लेकिन हमने कभी सवाल नहीं उठाया। लगातार चुनाव में पराजय होते हुए छुटपुट गड़बड़ियां 1952 से हो रही हैं। 1971 में जब मिसेस गांधी ने थम्पिंग मेजोरिटी जीती थी तब भी कई लोगों ने कह दिया था कि रूस से शाही आई, हम तो वो भी नहीं मानते। बांग्लादेश की जीत थी, इंदिरा गांधी की सेकुलर सोशलिस्ट इमेज थी, उसकी वजह से वो जीतती थी, हम तो ऐसा मानते हैं। लेकिन अब इसमें जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट में लोग चले गए, 28 तारीख को फिर पुनः सुनवाई है। मैं थोड़ा सा बहुत संक्षेप में 2-3 चीजें अपने जो विरोधी पक्ष के मित्र हैं उनसे कहना चाहता हूं। 80% फार्म जमा हो चुके हैं, बल्कि एज ऑन टुडे
All right, let's now bring you a section on financial markets. Take a look. This section is powered by Money Control Pro, Money Control's premium destination for investing and business insights. First, let's take a look at markets. GIFT Nifty is indicating a stable opening for Indian stock markets. Asian stock markets were trading flat in morning trade as investors await China economic growth data. US stock markets closed last evening with marginal gains. Gold prices remain steady as US President Donald Trump said he is open to trade negotiations.
Now talking about the defense sector in particular, defense companies are going through an interesting phase. Globally, nations are upping their expenditure on defense. This spells good news for Indian companies as a low-cost manufacturing location. In India, border tension, need to indigenize, etc., supporting higher orders and improvised execution. So log in to Money Control Pro to find out more about the defense sector and the other actionable insights on markets. It is the premier destination for all the investing views and financial insights you will ever need. Brought to you by Money Control.
And with that, we are drawing our show to a close.
Thanks for watching.
So you've seen the big arc lights here, the flashy cameras, but beyond all of this, journalism is all about hard work. So if you have it in you to make a name for yourself in this hyper-competitive industry, then let CNN News 18 be your platform.
Brought to you by This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
KC Tyagi ji, namaste. Sanjay Jaji, namaste. Pawan Verma and Rajiv Rudi ji should be joining us any moment. Any moment now. But KC Tyagi ji, how do you want to respond to what Tejasvi Yadav is saying? जब तक official औपचारिक तौर पे नहीं आता तो ये हमारे लिए मूत्र के बराबर. It's like urine, like waste.
नहीं, उनके इस अनपार्लियामेंट्री जो रिमार्क है उस पर मैं कोई टिप्पणी नहीं करना चाहता. चुनाव आयोग को लेकर के जो विपक्षी दलों ने सवाल उठाया है तो मैं आपकी जानकारी में लाऊं, मेरे साथ पवन वर्मा जी भी राज्यसभा में थे, रूडी जी भी राज्यसभा में थे, मैं भी राज्यसभा में था और एक और सज्जन राज्यसभा में थे. उनका नाम था श्री MS गिल, जो मुख्य चुनाव आयुक्त रह चुके थे, जो सेंट्रल कैबिनेट में मिनिस्टर भी रह चुके थे. तो क्या मैं मानूं कि चीफ इलेक्शन कमिश्नर MS गिल के रहते चुनाव में धांधली हुई होगी? लेकिन हमने कभी सवाल नहीं उठाया. लगातार चुनाव में पराजय होते हुए छुटपुट गड़बड़ियां 1952 से हो रही हैं. 1971 में जब मिसेस गांधी ने थम्पिंग मेजोरिटी जीती थी तब भी कई लोगों ने कह दिया था कि रूस से शाही आई, हम तो वो भी नहीं मानते. बांग्लादेश की जीत थी, इंदिरा गांधी की सेकुलर सोशलिस्ट इमेज थी, उसकी वजह से वो जीतती थी, हम तो ऐसा मानते हैं. लेकिन अब इसमें जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट में लोग चले गए, 28 तारीख को फिर पुनः सुनवाई है. मैं थोड़ा सा बहुत संक्षेप में 2-3 चीजें अपने जो विरोधी पक्ष के मित्र उनसे कहना चाहता हूं. 80% फार्म जमा हो चुके हैं, बल्कि एज ऑन टुडे 84%. 1 अगस्त को ड्राफ्ट मतदाता सूची जारी हो जाएगी, जिनके फार्म 25 जुलाई तक जमा होंगे. 1 अगस्त से लेकर के, मेरे मित्र सुन लें जरा, 1 अगस्त से लेकर 1 सितंबर तक ये जो नाम जोड़ने या आपत्ति दर्ज कराने का आवेदन कर सकते हैं. इतना लंबा समय मिलेगा. 30 सितंबर को मतदाता सूची जारी होगी, राजनीतिक दलों को ड्राफ्ट सूची दे दी जाएगी और चुनाव की वेबसाइट पर आ जाएगी. इसमें क्या दिक्कत है? इसके बाद कैसे इलेक्शन कमीशन बेईमानी कर सकता है? और जहां तक आर्टिकल 326 का आप जिक्र कर रहे थे कि जो भारत का निवासी नहीं है उसको वोट डालने का अधिकार नहीं है. जनता दल यूनाइटेड जो NDA का हिस्सा है और नीतीश कुमार की क्रेडिट.
Good morning and a warm welcome. You're watching CNN News 18 with me, Grihatul. Let's begin with the headlines at the top of 9. After spending 18 days in space, Shubhanshu Shukla, Axiom 4 crew to splash down in the Pacific off the southern Californian coast at 3 p.m. today. First Indian astronaut to visit International Space Station heads back to Earth now. In an exclusive interview to CNN News 18, Shubhanshu Shukla talks about Axiom 4 and Gaganyaan mission. Aviation watchdog DGCA orders fuel control switch inspections on various Boeing aircrafts by July 21st. This comes after plane crash report. Eggs hurled at Rath Yatra in Toronto. India calls it regrettable, urges Canada to act against perpetrators. 12-year-old Balasore student dies, succumbing to injuries after self-immolation. Chief Minister expresses grief. Protests erupt outside AIIMS Bhubaneswar. Amid Centre Judiciary tussle, government approves transfer of 17 High Court judges. Big rejig as government moves to initiate impeachment proceedings against Justice Yashwant Verma. US President Donald Trump sets 50-day deadline for Russia to agree to ceasefire, says will impose 100% tariffs on Moscow thereafter. Let's begin with our top focus story. India's tricolour soared high above the earth yet again. as Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, the mission pilot of Axiom 4, began his return journey from the International Space Station. This after spending 18 transformative days in orbit. Shukla and his international crew boarded the Dragon Grace spacecraft on Monday, with splashdown expected off California's coast at about 3:01 p.m. Indian Standard Time today. Their 22.5-hour journey will be fully autonomous, with Dragon performing engine burns, detaching its trunk and orienting its heat shield for re-entry, facing temperatures near 1600 degrees Celsius. Remember, this marks a proud milestone, India's first astronaut in space in 41 years since Rakesh Sharma. In his farewell speech from the International Space Station, Shukla echoed Sharma's iconic words, "Aaj ab bhi sare jahan se acha dikh raha hai." And from carrying Indian scientific experiments to cultural artifacts, Shukla's journey is not just personal, it's also India's leap into global space leadership. So as he returns, 1 billion hearts await him with pride, with prayers and with celebrations. CNN's Paula Newton has spoken with Shubhanshu Shukla and other Axiom 4 crew members. In an exclusive interview to CNN, Shubhanshu Shukla details Axiom and Gaganyaan mission. Take a look.
I'm Shubhanshu Shukla. I'm the mission pilot for Axiom 4 mission. And I think it is great to be in space. It was kind of a cycle. I would say initially 1 or 2 days was not so good. You were kind of adjusting to microgravity, but after that, it grows on you every day. And the longer you stay, the more you like it. And it is so much of fun being here, looking back at the Earth and just enjoying all the different settings and environment of space.
Hi, it's Tibor, and it's really nice to talk to you. It has been so much fun, as Shuk said. We started right with the launch, which was, I think, the best 8.5 minutes of our lives. I could do it any day, that's for sure. And ever since we have been here, we had the warmest welcome from the crew that has been up here already. And in the past 2 weeks, we have been conducting so much research and so much science, which has been actually the biggest fun. In fact, I was almost late from this conversation because I had a physics experiment right before this, but Peggy would have been really mad at me. So tried to make sure I'm here.
Tell us about some of the research that you will be doing and what would be groundbreaking about it, in your opinion?
I represent Poland and the European Space Agency as well, and Europe. Polish companies and universities and science institutes have for the first time the opportunity to conduct science on the ISS. Together with ESA, we prepared a big scientific complement for the mission, and this is the main focus: science and technology demonstrators. We've been one of the most exciting experiments that we prepared from the Polish side was, for example, we demonstrated the first brain-machine interface in space. That was for the first time ever done. So a direct measurement from the human brain and then interpreted by the computer to perform certain actions. So this is one, but also the scientific complement is a big variety. We have experiments on nanotechnology, on science. Yeah, of course. Here you go.
Swamp can talk a lot about science, but we all love it. I'm also a science geek, and I think one of the new investigations that we're trying on this mission, Axiom 4, is looking to make it possible for diabetics to fly in space in the future. We're testing out hardware and equipment and the capabilities that would keep someone with diabetes safe up in space. Of course, my favorite is actually the cancer study, where we're testing a couple of drugs to see if we can stop triple-negative breast cancer from replicating, and it's got some very exciting results.
Tibor, you're only the second astronaut from your country. There's a lot of pressure on you. They'll be expecting some of those experiments on Earth as well. But how important is it then for your country?
It is extremely important, and as you mentioned, I'm not the only one as a second national astronaut, but also Shukla and Swav representing the same kind of class as well. We have been the seconds from our countries as national selected astronauts, and all these countries have been waiting 40 years to come back to space as a former astronaut. It's a huge responsibility, but also a huge privilege on us. Now that we have been doing this mission, it's actually a new access for us to space.
Captain, I want to ask you, this mission is so important to your country, India. What are your thoughts on the recent news that the Gaganyaan mission has been postponed until 2027? Are you still hopeful that more can be done with this mission in terms of testing in this calendar year?
Yes, Paula, I think, first of all, this mission comes at a very crucial time for us, and I think it is very aptly placed. As you mentioned, we are on our own journey for human spaceflight mission, the mission Gaganyaan, and a lot of progress has been made. A lot of test missions have been conducted, and we were looking for certain test missions to be done this year and next year as well. Since I'm on station and I'm busy with a lot of experiments and research out here, I may not have the exact update on what's happening as per the timeline of the test events. But I do agree that this mission plays a very important role for us, because witnessing a human spaceflight mission end to end from launch till recovery gives you insights which I will take back with me and would be able to apply for our own journey back home in India.
Peggy, if we could turn to you, and you are the veteran. I mean, as we mentioned, this is not your first rodeo. And given that, I've learned that this is a very research-intensive mission. I mean, with this framing in mind, why is commercial space travel so important now and for the years to come?
Well, as you know, the International Space Station is planned to be decommissioned by the end of this decade. And it's going to be very important to maintain a human presence in space. And I think Axiom Space is on the forefront of being the leader there, of providing a space station that will enable the continuation of the phenomenal types of research that we're doing, but more importantly, to also take advantage of manufacturing and actually using space to make items that you can't make as well on Earth, like superconductor crystals or pulling fiber optics. Having a commercial entity will enable a lot of new pathways that have not been available in the past.
Let me now take this across to my colleague Shrishti, who's with us on the broadcast. Shrishti, very, very important interview that CNN has done, and we could sense the mood out there on the Dragon spacecraft. But once that's